AskReddit by the real who dat. What's the craziest thing you've overheard on a plane? The lady beside me told me that she was farting a lot, and she didn't care about telling me because she wouldn't see me again. I wish I had that woman's confidence, Mayo. A 5-year-old boy once said that, "Can you ask them to pull over so I can go to the toilet?" Haha. That's adorable. I once overheard a kid who must have been 8-10 ask his dad, "Boy, how long would the layover be?" "Dad, 2 hours." "Boy, but how long is the layover?" "Dad, oh." There was this kid was behind me that kept telling her dad she lost her tooth and the dad was disgruntledly trying to find it, and some guy nearby said, "Hey kid, I hear if you lose your tooth on a plane, the tooth fairy gives you $50, to which the dad replied, "Hey look sweetie, the tooth fairy decided to sit next to us on the plane." Mwahaha. Everyone is boarded and the plane is in the middle of the taxi when a kid about 10 seats up and on the left side, I was on right side, starts crying and screaming at the top of his lungs, "I need to poop and I'm going to poop," over and over again until the seatbelt signs came off. I've never seen so many worried faces and the look of panic as the mother picked up the kid and bolted to the toilet. I was sitting behind this cute toddler and her dad one flight, and while we were landing, she wouldn't sit down. She was turned around in her seat staring at me. Her dad was calming, telling her to sit down while we land, and she looks me straight in the eyes and goes, "I can't, I'm pooping." I am a pilot for a major airline. Decades ago I was running for a deadhead flight home and managed to snag the last seat. A mother and young daughter were seated next to me. Halfway through the flight, the mother, seeing my disheveled look after flying all day, asked if I wanted her daughter's PB and J sandwich that she wasn't going to eat. I politely declined, but she insisted. That was the best peanut butter and jelly sandwich I'd ever had. This is my favorite one of the entire thread. Not that crazy as such, but when literally about to touch down, a lady got up and started walking urgently towards the bathroom. The cabin crew immediately started saying, "Madam, we're about to land. You have to sit down." The lady responded by screaming in a panic, "I'm gonna shit myself." They allowed her to continue. I was recently on a flight where, about 45 minutes before landing, long, international flight, I got up to pee and overheard a flight attendant say one of the bathrooms had been occupied for a while. As we were about to land, I heard the flight attendant say, "Sweetie, I can get you a ginger ale, and we are about to land, so just hold on tight." I was sitting next to a father with his small child. The child wouldn't stop hopping around until the father said, "Sit still and be a good boy or the plane will crash because of you and we will end up dying." Never seen a kid so quiet before. Nothing better for helping your child decide to behave than saddling them with the responsibility for 100 or so strangers' lives. Wait till late for anyone to see this, and it wasn't so much overheard as said to me. I was flying alone and this little girl, maybe 5, wandered down the aisle and said hello. I asked where her parents were and she said they died and a police officer was flying with her to take her to her aunt. My brain was not able to conjure any response at all apart from air. Sorry. She asked if she could look out my window, so I moved over to the aisle seat and let her, me continuously looking for a cop that she might be traveling with. She then told me how her parents were driving back from a party last week and their car got pushed off the road by a truck into a tree. She was quietly crying while telling me this story. Suddenly I hear, "Oh, there you are," from the aisle. There's a woman standing there. The girl says, "Hello mommy," and leaves with her. What a little psycho. On a charter flight from Goa to the UK. He's taking ecstasy, and he has a knife in his bag, said an old couple to the stewardess, referring to me. I said, "I don't have a knife, I'm taking Valium. I just want to go to sleep." Stewardess believed me and moved the couple. To be fair, you were coming from Goa. On the other hand, taking X on a flight sounds like it would be a terrible waste. Pilot accidentally left the intercom switch on. The whole plane heard him say oh oh oh. That's weird. Nothing else. Plane took off amid varying levels of anxiety throughout the cabin. I'm here to tell the tale today, so thankfully it wasn't too weird. Captain and FO were probably laughing their asses off. Hey Bob, watch this. I had a seat near the lavatory. Some poor bastard was in a rush to use it, and once he got inside, it sounded like he fired up a chainsaw followed by some alarming gurgling, gushing noises. It took a while for him to come out, but he seemed okay. If this was a return flight from Dominican Republic then, I'm sorry, food poisoning was pretty much the motto of that trip. A guy coming home early to bust her cheating wife. He was on the phone with a friend family who told him the other guy was at his house ABD they didn't expect him back until the next week. Happened to me. I got rebooked on an earlier flight and came home about 5 hours earlier than expected. Wasn't my wife yet, just my fiancé. Worked out for the best for me. We both knew it wasn't working out anyway. She then married the guy and he treated her terribly. Turns out he had a cargo ship of psychological problems he kept well hidden. It took her several years to get the divorce to go through and get their finances entangled because he dragged it out as long as he possibly could. Two older guys in Miro on the way to an academic conference. One of them mentions that the first thing he is doing is attending lecture on some esoteric physics topic, but before he can even finish the name of the topic, guy number 2 says oh, of course, the effects of co-limited tesseracts on quantum membrane string interactions, or some such physics jargon. Are you familiar with the topic? Guy number 1 gets halfway through saying well actually I before he is cut off by guy number 2 who says because, you see, most people, even in the field are woefully undereducated in this particular subject, and then proceeds to talk guy number 1's head off for about 10 minutes. Guy number 1 just nods and smiles patiently through the whole exchange. At the end of his missive, guy number 2 says so, the lecture is being given by Dr. So-and-so, one of the leaders in the field, and absolute legend. Do you know his work? I did this once. I was at some kind of linguistics or artificial intelligence conference that was general enough that you never really knew who might know what. Met a nice man at end of day drinks who asked me what my talk would be about. I spent like 5 minutes explaining what formal learnability theory was to situate my topic. He waited until I was done before he said that he too had done a little work in learnability. At which point his coat shifted and I saw his name tag, Ryo Yashinika, one of the most important figures in the field today. Not something I overheard, but a friend was telling me he was on the flight between Stockholm, Thailand, either from to, and there were two old guys openly talking, bragging about all the shit they had done with young boys whilst in Thailand. God, that's horrible. I overheard a passenger passionately arguing with their seatmate about the correct way to eat a slice of pizza with chopsticks. What is the correct way? Edit. Wow, this is my most upvoted comment ever. THX for the fun responses people. D. A small child once told me that she had to fix the plane by lifting the armrest up and down. She also called me a dog-headed boy girl. Roasted. This is the first one that really made me laugh. We're running late but I'm gonna fly it like I stole it. Coolest pilot ever. I was sat next to a teenage boy and his dad. The kid was telling his dad how much he loved the song Sexual Healing by Marvin Gaye. When the kid was finally done talking, the dad just looked at him and said, "You're a virgin." Nothing too crazy. A couple in their 50s who were all over each other, like tongues in ears, hands in pants etc. They were busy working out the logistics of their next getaway. They were both cheating on their partners and laughing at how gullible their so's were, believing another business trip would come up so soon. Partners were probably thinking thank fuck they are going away again, and then proceeded to invite their other lovers around. Sat next to a college guy once who, while drinking some alcoholic beverages, started crying and telling me he killed his best friend in a drunk driving accident. Because he had good lawyers he got off jail time. He was sobbing and drinking. When we landed I made sure he was not driving. Imagine an hour after landing you see him again and he goes like, "Hello, I am your Uber driver." Not so much what he said, but I sat next to this fully grown man that was playing Plants vs Zombies the whole 3-hour flight with incredible enthusiasm. Every time a plant got eaten or he killed a difficult zombie he'd jump in his seat, pump his fist and aggressively whisper yes, yes, get him yes. To be fair, that game rocks. And so do drugs apparently. I was flying to Seattle from Atlanta and there was a baby crying for the majority of the flight. The parents were doing their best and it really was not their fault, just a shitty situation. About halfway to Seattle, the man seated in front of the baby snapped and started screaming at the baby and his parents, cursing at them saying how they're awful parents and he's gonna beat them all, including the baby, to a pulp when they land. A flight attendant tried to ask the guy to calm down and he said he would also beat her up. The pilot had to come on and tell everyone to calm down or else we had to make an early landing. We made it to Seattle and the guy ended up having to be tackled by 4 cops at the gate because he was trying to run away after being approached by them. I was on a flight that had a similar thing happen. Some business dude snapped, stood up, and yelled at the parents to shut the kid up. You could immediately feel the vibe of 20+ people being pissed off at the business dude. A big biker dude stood up behind him and calmly explained how the babies can't equalize the pressure in their ears like adults can and are in pain the entire time. After explaining it, he told him to STFU and sit down, and he did lol. 2 Mormon missionaries trying to convert the sweet, naive man sitting between them the entire flight. I once tried to be nice to 2 missionaries that showed up to my house. I sat outside and talked to them asking questions for about an hour because I thought people would likely be rude to them. I wanted to be nice. Then they kept sending people to my house over and over again and they wouldn't leave me alone. I kinda get why people just go no thanks and slam the door in their face. I've told you many times, Brenda, I am not shaving my balls. It's my balls and I'm a man. Sometimes, that's Brenda's way of saying she wants to suck on them. He's 17, my dad, to the flight attendant who was about to serve me a Jack and Amp Coke instead of the Coke I had asked for. Killjoy. When I was 12, we went to a Mexican restaurant. We were not too well off, so it was a treat. My mom even let me order a non-alcoholic daiquiri. It came normal, told my mom. She took a sip and said, "Yeah, well, don't tell anyone." We aren't cleared to taxi at the moment. We should be taking off within an hour. My husband once fell asleep when we got on the plane as we were taxiing for takeoff. He woke up 2 hours later thinking we'd just landed. Nope, still taxiing. I was sitting next to a dad and his daughter who was about 5. He was super cool and was chatting away while his daughter started talking to me. She was so sweet and bubbly, and gave way to much information to me. She said something along the lines of, "I went to my grandma and grandpa's house and they're married. I wish my dad would marry my mom but they can't talk to each other, but I always wish they were married like my grandma and grandpa." Her dad would have been horrified. And I was just sad. My son did something similar. Me and dad are their last name, and mum is my last name. Mum doesn't have a penis. Thanks, kid. I was flying solo into Orlando. The woman next to me was so excited about her new boyfriend's boat and was going on and fucking on about how excited she was for this trip. I nodded and put my headphones in, and about 1 minute later, she grabbed the cord on my headphone and pulled it out of my ear so she could blather on about it. I asked her if she had lost her motherfucking mind. Have you lost your mind? 'Cause I'll help you find it. Some guy told his partner that she didn't need more yarn and every woman in earshot promptly told him how wrong he was. Yarn? You mean? Not that crazy but a fun story. Last December I was flying from Frankfurt to Chicago and was seated in the absolute last row of the plane where the staff prepares stuff so you can hear them just chatting with each other. Right before takeoff I heard one of the flight attendants say to another, "Is that thing still broken? I swear they'll never get around to repairing it," which is not something you want to hear on a flight. The guy next to me was like, "Did you hear that?" looking at me like, "WTF, I hope nothing major is broken." The attendants then said something like, "Well, at least it's not maggots this time," and me and the guy next to me were thoroughly concerned about how this flight would go. After laughing it off, I spent the next 9 hours chatting to this complete stranger about our entire lives, relationships, family drama, etc. We had 4 glasses of wine and decided to watch The Matrix together, making sure to pause whenever the other person paused. I don't think we exchanged names, but if you're out there, guy from Wisconsin living in Italy and teaching English, thanks for the most fun flight I've ever had. This plane doesn't even have a phalange.